Carl here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. And it's taking the nostalgia goggles off, reliving childhood horror. Halloween 2024, and it had to be, didn't it? Did you suspect in these 31 films, over these 31 days, that this film might show up? It is, of course, you've seen the title, the original Halloween, the iconic John Carpenter slasher horror, created the icon Michael Myers, and is still today considered to be one of the best horror films slasher films ever made. It's inspired countless films to follow it, had tons of sequels and spin-offs and side stories and remakes, to the point where it's very hard sometimes to keep up with the concurrent story of the Halloween series. We actually have something like that on the site you can check out, where we break down each individual story. Maybe worth having a little read of that and where each film branches off. Because growing up, I swear I watched Halloween H2O more, H20 more. Call it H2O. I always do that by accident. It's not water, Halloween water. It's Halloween H20 as in 20 years later. And I think that's because that was a more traditional slasher film. But that's a flawed ass movie. But as an adult, I now go back and I look and I can rank now, sitting here, what the Halloween films are in my out loud, like where they stand. That's how often I've seen them all. How I've seen the ones you don't see that often, the 4, 5s and 6s that often. The Thorn trilogy. I've seen them countless times. I've seen Halloween 3 loads. Underrated, Season of the Witch deserves a massive shout, but I never saw it as a kid. In fact, as a kid, the only Halloween films I saw was Halloween 1 and Halloween 2, but I'm pretty sure I saw Halloween 2 maybe once or twice at most. Halloween 1 I saw loads of times. And then later it would be Halloween H20, but by then I was a teenager, so horror wasn't such a big deal. And I think I saw Halloween Resurrection, which is still to date one of the worst Halloween movies ever made, later. But then it was later in life that I went back and went, right, let me rewatch these ones I've never saw. Let me watch 3, Season of the Witch, 4, 5, 6, and obviously the rest is history. I will unlikely or very rarely go back to any other Halloween movie these days outside of Halloween 1. Sometimes I might pair up with Halloween 2. Sometimes I'll throw in Halloween 3 for a different vibe, because obviously it's not a Michael Myers film. But I can't really see me ever really doing 4, 5 and 6 unless I end up watching with my wife, because I know she's not seeing them. But I will consistently go back to Halloween. Even more so these days, because I've got middling feelings on the reimagining sequels. I have middling feelings on the Rob Zombie remakes, and I have middling feelings to whatever they'll do in the future. But the original, it is still a 10 out of 10 movie. It's one of the few horror movies on the website that got 10 out of 10, and deservedly so. I still think this holds up. Even so many years later, I still think it's the pinnacle of slasher horror movies, delivering everything. What we all know as tropes now weren't tropes back then. So watching it sometimes now, and you see those tropes, and you can be a bit like, oh yeah, but you got to remember this was pre all of that. This was setting the bar, setting the standards, creating the tropes that people would overuse later on. But as a child, this was terrifying. This being, this man, at least back then, remember, I thought he was a human man. We didn't know what we know these days, the whole indestructible thing nonsense that would come later on. We also don't have the detail about babysitters, about sister and family and all of that. All I saw was a violent, evil man who had been a violent, evil child grow up and just want to kill people. Not for any particular reason, but seemingly just because he was compelled to do it, because they were in his neighborhood. He decided he wanted to keep killing. Like, it was so simple. I absolutely loved it, and it didn't need a being risen from the dead. It didn't need an abuse storyline from a child. It didn't need any of that. It just had this malevolent creature, this malevolent human being, as far as I saw it, who just wanted to kill people. And of course, the detail around like suggesting about teenagers, sex, and all of those tropes didn't mean shit to me as a kid. I just watched this person stalk and kill people in interesting fashion, violent fashion, always really well build up the tension. It was something I experienced as a kid. Obviously, as a kid, I certainly didn't appreciate the sort of pacing and stuff like that. But I don't remember ever thinking it was boring. I think because it was so tense, because you were always looking in the background, trying to keep your eyes out for where he might be, because of popping up in earlier scenes and driving around in the car and following and all of this stuff. It felt like he could be anywhere. Those early scenes where he steps up behind the bush and is watching Laurie, in the back garden with the sheets. God, that stuff is fabulous. And even now when I watch it, I just get that chill. I just get that shiver. And because you always put yourself and go, well, what would you do? I'd be dead. That's what I'd do. I would die. It is fucking fabulous. And it does take a certain level of detachment today to watch it. I think it's really important to point that out, that I understand, because I struggle with it, going back and watching it now, being like, oh yeah, Scream Queen, final girl, risk screaming, running, not a lot going on. Like I get all the criticisms that we would apply to things because it's been overused by today's standards, and then retrospectively almost accidentally apply it to Halloween. It's important to detach yourself from that and remember, okay, this is a 1970s movie, late 70s film. Like, none of this stuff existed, so enjoy it for what it is. And I think when you do that, you remember just how brilliant it is, just how thrilling it is, just how well acted it is, how well shot it is, how great that freaking... We all know the soundtrack's incredible. But we're not even just talking like the main theme, just the tones throughout and the ambience, the feel that he creates with those tones and those synths. God damn. Honestly, I still think it's the best slasher movie ever made. I still think there's anything close to it. And I've got a lot of love for a lot of different slasher like films and franchises, but nothing is touching this. It's 10 out of 10, which was written many years ago on the website. I still think is deserved. I love Halloween. I don't watch it every year. I know a lot of people like to religiously watch it every year on Halloween, but I don't. Because I know I get sick of watching it if that's the case. I do like to leave it every couple of years. And because the last couple of years we've had these new Halloween films, there's been less impetus. But you know what? It's going to get another rewatch like soon, I think. Obviously, I rewatched it for this, and it felt fresh still. It still felt fresh. And it'd been a while. It'd been a good few years. But I almost had a new appreciation for it based off these current, like, this last run of newer Halloween films. So maybe that makes it worth rewatching. If you're not too sure if you're going to watch it as Halloween, maybe watch it for that reason. You know it's as brilliant as I think it is. What do you reckon? This is Halloween. You know what to do? Let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at gbhbl. Just search for gbhbl and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.